for a fact, bro. I googled what is where, and then the rest of my sentence just filled out, bro. And I know, I know some other people were googling this shit because this movie is dumb as hell, bro. What the fuck? I literally sat here for an hour and a half and but they didn't inform me about nothing. Just kept playing clips and music in the background with people in costumes for an hour and a half. The movie had there was no story. It was like, remember when this happened? And that's it. Bruh. Alright, let's find out. Luke Combs, Where the Wild Things Are. Where the Wild Things Are. Thug Notes. Thug Notes summary and analysis. Let's find out what this is about.
Yo, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Make your next move.
Where the Wild Things Are. Great work. Can you do Where the Wild Things Are? Where the Wild Things Are. Where the Wild Things Are. Would love to see Where the Wild Things Are. Where the Wild Things Are. Do Where the Wild Things Are. I bet. Thug Notes.
What's up, my well-read ballers? This week we taking things to the max with Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. It's getting hella late up at the crib, and instead of catching some Z's, little shorty Max is sporting some fly-ass wolf threads and hopping around like a bunny on bath salts. We see him pitching tents, chasing a dog with a fork, and just making a goddamn mess. Instead of calling the exorcist, Max's mama all like, chill, you wild thing. Matter of fact, you better hustle your crazy ass up to bed, cause you ain't getting no dinner tonight. Damn, girl. A growing boy needs his grub. Max rolled up to his room pissed as hell when, oh shit, a bunch of trees start growing in his room and a damn ocean tumbles by. Sounds like this little dude been growing a different kind of tree. Nah, I mean, some boy hop on a fly-ass boat and start flowing down.
All that
the
happened in
ocean
his
for
room?
nearly
Huh?
Damn, girl, a growing boy needs his grub. Max rolled up to his room pissed as hell when, oh shit, a bunch of trees start growing in his room and a damn ocean tumbles by. Sounds like this little dude been growing a different kind of tree. Nah, I mean,
I think it sounds
some
high.
boy
The
hop on a
fuck?
fly-ass boat and start flowing down the ocean for nearly a year. Finally, Max landed in this funked out spot where a bunch of busted ass beasts called wild things be chilling. When these big-headed bitches see Max, they wig out and try to make them all scared. Man, this shit is like Sesame Street on a bad trip. But Max is a hard-ass gangster who don't back down. He starts mad dogging them and hollers, chill, bitches! And boom! They all put that hustle aside and slow their roll. Damn! This little player got some big boy balls, don't he? After seeing how real Max be, them muppet-looking mofos give him a fat crown and make him king of all wild things. To celebrate his baller status, Max throws up banging rumpus. Oh yeah, party! Max and his crew are raging under the moon when out of nowhere, Max hollers stop and sends them busters to bed with no supper. Even though he rocking a crown like a G now, this little bruh's starting to feel mad lonely. He just want to be at the spot where somebody loves him the most. Basically, he misses his mama. Max gets the munchies
I got
and
that
decides
much.
to head home. But the wild things all like,
Okay, so if you haven't seen this movie, Where the Wild Things Are, so at this point where he is in the explanation, let me just. All right, so in the movie, he did not just grow trees out of his room and an ocean appear in his room. Bro literally ran away from home, found a boat on the shore, rode that thing, and then also on top of all that, in the middle of the ocean, decided to yell out hello as if a nigga was gonna respond. Yo, my nigga, what's up? I'm in a boat right across from you. No, nigga, you can see for miles. There's nobody around you. Anyways, oh yeah, so then also when he got there and he said be still. Now that I'm looking at it from the fact that this is a book first and then it was a movie, I think the people who made the movie just put in no effort because they didn't add anything. Like everything so far from this video and the book is pretty damn near like exactly how the movie played out, pretty closely. But they didn't add any context to the movie. Like when he says "be still," literally it just happened like that. Like they were about to jump him, and then he said "be still," and like no context. Like why did it work? Like that's your bread and butter in a movie. Explain it now. Oh my god. But yeah, right here in the book, apparently it just says "be still," and yeah, it makes more sense in a book. It's not in a movie. And then also in the book right here,
it's seeing how real Max be. Them muppet looking mofos give him a fat crown and
they didn't give him a crown. He just said, "I'm a king." He started yapping basically. He was like, "I'm a king. I killed some Vikings. Shit, I traveled the world. Been a king for 20 years. Shit." And then they're like, "Oh, you're a king?" And that's how it happened. He said, "Yeah, I'm a king." And they're like, "Okay, will you be our king?" They didn't say you're our king now. Like, this. Never mind.
King of all wild things. To celebrate his baller status, Max throws up.
And then also, this didn't happen either in the movie. He didn't say stop, and then they went to sleep.
Stop, and sends them busters to bed with no.
Like he didn't have any powers. Like he didn't say do this, and then they did it. Like in the movie, he jumps on one of them, and then they start laughing, blah blah blah, and then another one jumps, and then they create a pile, and then the third one jumps, pile, more and more of them jump on, and then they end up sleeping in a pile. Apparently that's how wild things sleep. They jump in a pile together, and they sleep. So that's how they went to sleep. It started off as a game though, and then they fell asleep.
Supper. Even though he rocking a crown like a G now, this little bruh's starting to feel mad lonely. He just want to be at the spot where somebody loves him the most. Facts. Basically, he misses his mama.
No, that's facts. I saw that. I got that part from watching the movie. There was a lot of subtle undertones about about that.
Max gets the munchies and decides to head home. But the wild things all like, "Don't leave us, player."
That didn't happen. Like, Bro did not get the munchies and decide to head home. Bro literally lived there with them for like, if I had to guess, a month and a half, maybe 2.
Too late, and throws up the deuce. Back at the crib, Max finds his hot dinner still on the table.
This happened at the end of the movie.
Waiting for him to get his grub on. Sounds like soul food to me.
And he didn't leave because he was hungry. He left because I don't even know why he left. That's how bad the movie was at explaining shit. He just left.
I love you, mama.
Like, yeah, shit can happen, and like shit leads to somebody like wanting to run away or leave the situation. But like, you don't just go from point A to point B. Point A happens, the altercation. You either think about it or like talk to somebody about it, I don't know, and then you decide to leave. Literally, it just went from point A to point B in the movie. They fought, the nigga left.
When it comes to the children's lit game,
and it wasn't even the first time they fought. Half the movie was them fighting with no context.
Yeah, broke all kind of rules. See, most kids' books table just waiting for him to get his grub on. Sounds like soul food to me. I love you, mama. When it comes to the children's lit game, this book right here broke all kind of rules. See, most kids' books repping childhood is just sipping on juice boxes and playing a little grab ass. But this book right here explored the dark shit that goes down inside the minds of little kids. Cause on the real, it ain't always all good when you're a kid. You gotta deal with some real raw emotions. That faraway land of wild things represents the psychology of a young blood dealing with a booty load of mixed up emotions. This hood serves as a spot where Max can recognize all his confusion and anger, work through it, and understand what's really important in his life. At first, Max is
See that context right there? Maybe I'm just not a kid and don't understand. But that's context. So basically, the island is his brain. And the wild things are the emotions in his brain. And he goes to his brain and plays with his emotions, I guess, to discover what's really and truly important. And once he's done with that and finds out, okay, this is what's important right now, he leaves the island, his brain, his imagination, and he goes back into reality. Okay.
Geeked up to chill with the wild things, cause with them, he can live out his beastly side without having his hater-ass mama always trying to control him. But when he getting crunk up at the rumpus, he recognized that even getting lit ain't gonna make him happy.
Facts.
So when he kills the party by screaming, "Now stop!" he shows that he got more control over his anger. You can almost hear his balls drop a little bit. And at the end of the story, Little Max recognized that his mama ain't controlling him just to be a bitch. Nah, blood, she just really cares about him. That hot grub at the end, repping the fact that no matter how much he acted like a shit, he'll always have the unconditional love of his mama. Look, the world is a messed up place even for children. But instead of just sweeping it under the rug, kids can use their imagination to beast through all that loneliness and isolation. Like Syndax said, there are games children must conjure up to combat an awful fact of childhood. The fact of their vulnerability to fear, anger, hate, frustration, all the emotions. Through fantasy, Max, the hero of my book, discharges his anger against his mother and returns to the real world sleepy, hungry, and at peace with himself. Yo, thanks for kicking it with your boy, man. Peace. Yo.
I guess that's a decent explanation for the story, but I want an explanation for the movie. For the movie. The movie itself? Yeah, y'all need to explain that one. Hell no. Ain't no way y'all about to get away with that. How much money y'all made? The masterpiece that everyone misunderstood. Masterpiece. Fuck out of here.
Want a fast, affordable makeover that makes every quarter mile a smile? Replace your car's carpet at OCI.
Is it hard to make a movie?
It is.
Oh, this is the guy that made it. Explain, nigga. Fucking explain.
One of the days shooting the interior of the fort, everything was like really not working well, and the blocking was really complicated. I don't know what else, but it was just stressful. And Lucas came up to me, like, "Spike, do you think you're making a good movie?" And I think, "I don't know, Lucas."
No, you weren't.
It's like,
Shit was
I
ass.
think you're making a good movie.
That was
Nah, facts. The kid was the best part of the movie. He was acting his ass off.
an excerpt from behind the scenes of the film Where the Wild Things Are, with the director of the project, Spike Jonze. And this was in the middle of the film's production, after the nearly 5 years that it took Spike to fully find his vision for the film and convince studio execs to fund this movie. With the film having an estimated budget of $100 million compared
$100
to
million to do that?
Spike's previously directed features, this was big boy money. And unfortunately, this caused
Half the money was probably spent on the scene where they built the fort, and that shit was so dead. The movie could have been exactly the same without that. Ass.
for a big boy loss, with the film not exactly turning a profit and making $100 million worldwide at the box office. When I was looking at critics' reviews at the time of its release,
Let me
I
read
found
these
that
shits.
at the box office. When I was looking at
A near perfect live action adaptation. Yeah. Now that I know a little bit about the book, pretty sure bro just did exactly what the book said. Added a few details to make it real life. Other than that, bro did not care for context, underlying themes, world building, none of that. Where the Wild Things Are is a brilliant conceived story, conceived and artfully realized translation of Sendak's beloved story. For grown-ups, Jones' exploration of Max's imaginary world is a wonder, much like Eyes Wide Shut or David Lynch film. Where the Wild Things Are works on the level of the consciousness and subconscious. It's less about a kid and more about being a kid. She cooked with that one.
critics' reviews,
A work of genuine imagination and intelligence that doesn't try to ram the same old feel-good platitudes down our collective throat. This nigga was really trying to use big words.
at the time of its release,
Regardless of whether or not the film means anything at all, it is a triumph of visual imagination, production, and set design and costuming. Not facts. Like, okay. I know I keep saying the movie was ass, Where the Wild Things Are, but if I'm being honest, honestly, it's just a great story. Like, take the movie out of it, the lady who wrote the book, she cooked. And, like, I'll say he did a... Because the work that was there already, the book, was amazing. Amazing. So the fact that you took this book and put it into movie form and added no context, nothing to it, you just took the book for exactly what it was and made it a movie, it's still a pretty decent movie because what was there before was already really good. But bro could have made an even more amazing, immaculate, great movie on top of a great book. But also at the same time, for now that I'm learning a little bit more about this story, for what this story is and what it's for and like how it's like the mission of the story, I think the movie did a good job. I'm just mad that you could have put more context in that bitch. Like, let me understand it a little bit more. Now I have to go to YouTube, learn about the book.
I found that there was definitely some...
Too dark for children, too dull for adults.
There was definitely...
That's accurate as fuck.
some positive reception, but I also noticed that there were critics who didn't really...
No dialogues or actions connect from scene to scene. No character development takes place. Exactly, man! Fuck exactly!
With some complaint...
Classic picture book is expanded into a dark, imaginative, full-length movie.
Complaining about the darker tone and how it...
Reinvented in its own school or cool. Reinvented it in its own cool school or cool, and yet he preserved and extended the original innocent charm. Jones' Wild Things is an altogether darker, colder picture. I didn't find the movie dark. Not gonna lie to you. A film about the way children can lose their fear of the world only by losing their innocence. Huh? Jones' design extrapolates the book. But also at the same time, remember that comment where the lady said the movie's not about a kid, it's about being a kid? That makes a lot of sense because as a kid, you really aren't looking for the context and the dialogue and the world building and the character development. You're not. You're just taking everything for what it is. And that's kind of how the movie was shot. Yo, now that do I like this movie? Do I like this movie? Hold on. Alright, let me finish this. A film about the way children... Jones' design extrapolates the book very cleverly. But I have a feeling that loyal fans and family audiences looking for fun may be disconcerted. This guy's spitting. It certainly doesn't offer much Christmas jollity. Jones fans, on the other hand, will find that this director's talents remain untamed. Okay.
And we're expecting
through discussion of this movie, I'm starting to appreciate it more.
Something more upbeat for kids. And what I find interesting is the correlation that this reception has with what it's adapted from. The picture book from author Maurice Sendak, released in 1963, which was met with similar thoughts.
Censorship takes many forms, including on the grounds of religious principles, and not surprisingly, Wild Things has been challenged in schools and libraries because of witchcraft and supernatural elements. Witchcraft? Go watch the movie.
With people calling it too dark. However, 10 years later, it's a bestseller. It's what all the kids are reading, and since 2013 has 20 million copies sold. Morris keeps being really cool and successful and making more books and stuff like that. Rest in peace. From my personal experience, though, I was a fan of the book as a kid and had watched the movie when it was released and enjoyed it, but I found it odd, a little weird. However, there was a lot from it that stuck with me throughout my childhood. As watching it for the first time in several years, there were specific shots and lines of dialogue that I had remembered. And watching it for the first time in a while, I appreciated it more and re-fell in love with the world. And looking around online, I found that I wasn't the only one who felt this way. There were a bunch of people who had watched them.
Rewatching this movie when I'm a lot older just helped me realize how much of a masterpiece it is, and how it was way too ahead of its time. It's one of the few movies equally enjoyable for kids and adults. Okay.
Movie as a kid. And
This movie felt like a dream, but a dream that sticks with you for your entire life. A dream that makes no sense, yet is understandable. Hey, the director might have did his shit. He might have did his shit. He might have did his shit. Now that I'm really thinking about it. Damn. I love that. I was over here to begin with. Now I'm over here. I love that. That's what life is about, bro. Discussion, thoughts, growth, progression. Man, I love this shit. I think this movie was for us adults. It takes me back to my childhood and makes me go to my hideaway spot.
Youth and adulthood, and found a new appreciation for it. And so that's why I'm going to attempt to express my thoughts and feelings on this film and discuss why I believe it's misunderstood and ahead of its time. Before this point in the timeline, Spike was at the top of his game, originally getting his start as a skateboard photographer, slowly moving into short films and music videos. And in each and every project that he did, no matter how small or large they were, there was always the same amount of passion coming through no matter what. And looking through Spike's filmography, this is prevalent in his earlier works, but I even think more so in Where the Wild Things Are, as this was his first film that he was both writing and directing on. Get off the script, Charlie Kaufman, you have more depressing things to work on. It's Spike's turn to cook. And Spike cooked alright. My guy managed to pull off adapting a 48-page picture book into 100 minutes full of emotion, creativity, and humor, while staying true to what the original book meant, but at the same time crafting new themes and ideas for the film. And I think that's the craziest achievement from this film, is that it simply exists and works.
I think I was hating. I was hating like a motherfucker. I am so sorry, Spike Jonze. You did your shit. You did your shit.
Oh wow. This is a film that dares to be bold, dares to take risks, and stays true to itself in the execution. It's a fantasy film that doesn't portray the imaginative world in a grandiose, epic way, but instead Max...
Nah, facts. Man, why am I so... I feel mad at myself, or like just disappointed that I even took that stance to begin with. That was immature. That was immature of me.
Max's imaginary world somberly fills the film as pieces of his real world bleed into the imaginary one.
What is wrong with you?
And also, now that I'm really thinking about it, there were parts of this movie that I really liked, because it gave you the chance to allow yourself to expand on, like, you know when you're watching a movie and you're like, what if that happened to me? What would I do in that situation? Like, there was parts of the movie that literally allowed you to be in that process while watching the movie, because that's what the movie's about. It wants to provoke those thoughts. It's not just like, oh, since you're watching it, I mean, like, I guess you would think that while watching it. Nah, it wants you to provoke those thoughts. It wants you to have those conversations with yourself. I love this shit.
You're out of control!
You lied?
You're out of control!
Not out of control.
It's a film that centers around childhood, but depicts it in a unique and honest way that I honestly haven't seen articulated this specifically in a movie before. Showing us the pure joy and excitement of childhood imagination, but as well showing us the fears and frustrations of being a kid. And the first 5 minutes perfectly show us these two elements of childhood. Max starts out playing, using his imagination for fun, but then... he's neglected by his own sister when he needs help. Those feelings of being left out and isolated turn into frustration as Max destroys his sister's room. Spike intentionally starts off this film with lots of emotional impact, as throughout the wholesome and gentle moments Max has with his mother, there's these scenes of frustration with the lack of attention that Max craves. And Spike Jonze's priority of capturing the spirit and feelings of childhood positive...
Nah, but he definitely started the movie off. I want you to know this is a white kid. It's not a black kid. It's not an Asian kid. It's not an Indian kid. It's a white kid. And we got white issues. That's definitely how the movie started off. Because the movie started off, I was like, this would never happen in my house. None of this shit.
And negative are very apparent in the film, with Spike speaking out about his intent. Unpredictable emotions, positive or negative, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what they mean. Emotions are messy and hard to figure out. Hard to know where you start and the next person stops. Even as an adult, that's a hard thing to know. As a kid, it can be really confusing because it's all new and you're trying to sort of make your map. And through the emotionally confused feelings we see from Max at the start, you see why this world that he's created is perfect for him. There are these things there that initially feel like family. They give him attention and they look up to him. Contrast to the frustration that Max feels in the real world where he feels like he's being looked down on, as Max longs to connect with his family and tries to invite them to his imaginary worlds, but then gets denied. This causes Max to grow hatred for his new arch nemesis, Mark Ruffalo. Curse you, Mark Ruffalo, for your presence alone with my mother causes her not to contribute to my imaginary fortress. May you rot forever, and because of your dastardly ways, I have already portrayed your younger self in Rian Johnson's 2008 film, The Brothers Bloom. Point is, the imaginative world from Max's mind, while not being lush and looking that inviting, is thematically inviting to Max. There's a sense of community as Max feels like he belongs with his crew. Max sails up onto the island and sees some stuff going down. He gets a sniff down to see if he passes the vibe check, and he does. Success! He is now one with...
You better explain the movie to me? Hold on.
This is Jedi Ninja 60.
Honestly, I think I get it now.